This is an exclusive one-on-one conversation with a California producer. I'm going to have a great time with Birdberry Music, otherwise known as Brad, all the way over in the SoCal area. One of the greatest producers in the area, no question, for bands like Scarlet Siren, Slanderous, and Against the Sun.
Don't wanna hear you and don't wanna shout. I can't wait till the smoke turns your insides black. You can't carry on and there's no turning back. Run out of patience, I'm cutting this off. Hitting rock bottom still wasn't enough. It's sad to see the light in your eyes. My faith in the life you made is dwindling inside this space. I go down, now I taste ashes.
And if you have not heard of those names before, you need to go and check them out right now. You need to go and follow all of them, give them all the love and support because they deserve it, and give Birdberry Music some support as well. All right, let's get Brad in here right now.
You're listening to the Media Man Dan podcast. Let's rock!
Yo.
All right, sir. There we go. We're all good. All right. We were just having a pre-chat, which is only available on Patreon, but that's going to come out in the future. Don't worry about it.
I didn't know I was
man.
being recorded.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's like, I didn't have consent. So you're probably wondering why I'm not wearing the Scarlet Siren shirt today. That is because I decided that I would leave my clothes apparently at my fiance's house, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I have it at the other house, and I don't. So I'm rocking the Warning, which is actually great because they are actually well known for doing an amazing show at Whiskey A Go Go just a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Are they like a rock genre, I'm assuming? Rock or,
absolutely.
metal, something?
They're
Cool.
like the
Heck yeah.
revival of rock these days. It's going to be absolutely amazing to see how much they grow in the future. They got an album next month. Literally, when our conversation drops is when their album drops. So
Cool,
it kind of works
awesome.
out. Yeah.
Perfectly. Oh yeah, perfectly. It's planned. It's planned. But
Jason just said, "I know these guys." OMG. Hey, Jason,
Hey,
good
what's
to
up,
have you here,
dude?
man.
how you doing, bro? Jason's an
This is
awesome
gonna be
artist,
awesome.
man. Awesome person too.
He is. I've had him on a couple of times. He had me on his podcast. I was part of the interview series that they did on the Mediadrome, and I had such a good time ranting about Disney and Marvel and all kinds of crap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I used to be heavy into like the into Star Wars, man. I used to be such a Star Wars geek.
Like that?
Oh, dude. Okay, let's see. Oh, nice.
All 6 movies, my friend.
The only 6 movies, right?
Exactly, the only 6 movies. I got them on
Except for Rogue One.
Rogue One is the
gets a pass.
exception. I'll give that. Yes, I need that. It kind of works. You go with the third act of that movie and go straight into A New Hope. It starts it all over. It's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Now to be fair, I know we have plenty of things to talk about, but when it comes to Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed The Force Awakens. I loved The Force Awakens. And I get like it's similar to A New Hope. Okay, fine. But it's, what is it? The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yep.
If those 2 movies were better, then Force Awakens would have been great. Because Force Awakens is like bringing it back, and so they're going to rehash a lot of the same stuff. That's fine. But if the other 2 movies were good, then The Force Awakens would have been amazing.
Yes.
But because the other 2 movies, weren't that great, then the Force Awakens kind of was like, But
I'll tell you where Disney dropped the ball. I'm trying to get this angle right. It's just my curtain just keeps getting in the shot.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So where Disney dropped the ball the most is that they gave us a compelling storyline in Force Awakens with Finn. And you're thinking, this is going to be one of the coolest things
Yep.
that Star Wars ever did, right? A self-aware stormtrooper that's leaving the dark side and trying to find out why they were manipulated into the ways of the Sith. And so you get that, and you're like, wow, this is so cool. And then they're like, next movie, he's the slapstick moron with the fucking water coming out of the side of his stuff. It's like so stupid.
Yeah, there are so many issues with the mainly again the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like the thing that just bothered me the most is, as soon as I'm not kidding. Like I went to go see the Last Jedi, and I was with my dad, and we were all hyped for it. We were all excited.
Yeah.
As soon as Luke threw the lightsaber in my head, I was like, I'm in for a shit show. The whole movie's just not gonna work. And I was right. And and it's one of those things where it's like Luke wouldn't become the curmudgeon, right?
Yeah.
He literally his dad was the most evil person in the world besides Palpatine. And he still had the courage to stand up and try to save his dad. Whereas Ben has a bad dream, or was it Luke has a bad dream about Ben, and then he tries to kill him, and I just don't find it compelling enough to where it's one of those things where Luke would be so oh my god, I don't want this to happen again, where he's gonna kill Ben like that. I don't know, man. It just pisses me off so much.
What about the beginning of The Last Jedi? See, The Last Jedi has a couple of great things about it. One, the cinematography is fantastic.
It is good.
2, the soundtrack actually really, really works for it. I mean, you get some of the best composition. And then 3, you get some of the coolest looking lightsaber fights, I guess you could say, since we had, the original. Because, I mean,
the throne room scene, yeah.
Force Awakens, right, we had a good feel of Star Wars. Like you said, they did A New Hope again. But if you watch Rey's attack, it's literally stab, and then stab, and then stab. It's like, do you do anything else, Rey? Why are you so good at fighting if all you do is stab? That's all. You just lunge forward and put your lightsaber.
Yeah, and see, but no, I think that would be part of the growth, right? If she was trained, which she apparently doesn't need any training because, Rey's the perfect Jedi or whatever. But it's, there are some things in The Last Jedi that are really good. The big one though is that like Ryan Johnson, he even says that he likes to make movies where 50% of the audience leaves the theater happy and the other is pissed.
Oh, I was like, leaves the theater. That would be the funniest thing. That's period.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
where
no,
it ends.
no.
I like to make movies where everyone leaves.
Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, And in my head, I'm like, you don't do that to a franchise that you're offered the opportunity, one of the biggest franchises, and you have this opportunity. You put your own personal stuff aside, and you go purely with the continued story. You don't put in your own, like, you can put in your own flavor, but like, this is something that, you know, you have to earn, kind of, you know. It's, you know, I'll put it in a music term because we're talking music too, but
Yes.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, if someone comes to me to have like a project produced, I want to do them a service, right? I want to, you know, I'm going to add my take on things, but I'm going to keep the image in mind of what they want. You know, and then when you bring it to film, you know, it's all these people that didn't earn the opportunity of creating, you know, adding on to a huge franchise, and then they just completely, you know, oh, well, now I'm just going to do my own thing. And that, to me, that's like a sign of like disrespect, to be honest. As silly as it sounds, we're talking about movies, but it
is true. It is true. So one of my biggest issues, and you just said that, like, the tossing over the shoulder, of course, the green milk and all kinds of other things as well with Luke. But like the first joke in the movie with Poe just like telling a like your mom joke to the general of the First Order, it's just like, what on earth is, like, Star Wars, right? We've had humor, we've had ridiculous, we've had Jar Jar Binks, we've had that, but like, know your mom jokes was never on the like the sheet of things that you should go through in a Star Wars universe where we're taking everything very seriously. So it was just like, they didn't care, and you could tell that they didn't care. They wanted to have a little bit more fun. Maybe the kids wanted to have like something for memes. Maybe they were like, oh, this is gonna be a meme, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, they took Marvel and made it into Star Wars. That's all they did.
That is true.
That humor is directly from Marvel. So
yeah,
keep
we
that
have
in
to
Marvel.
Gotta blame Feige for all of the success.
yeah. No, but you know, like, you know, I watched all the Clone Wars, most of the Bad Batch. I haven't seen the newer seasons. You know, so have you followed up on any of those, like the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch?
Hell no, dude. I haven't given a shit about anything Disney's done with Star Wars since they ended it with The Rise of Skywalker. The biggest slap in the face to every Star Wars fan. Just, like, dude, so many fake out deaths. It was like watching Scream 6 again. Like, it was so bad. I mean, like, obviously Rise of Skywalker came first, but like, it was like, oh, Chewbacca's gonna die. Oh, C-3PO's gonna die. Oh, Kylo's gonna die.
Yeah.
Oh, Rey's gonna die. It's like, please just kill someone. Holy shit.
Yeah. No, and well, so here's the thing. One thing, what I would recommend is checking out the Clone Wars. There's a lot of episodes. There's actually a list online that you can go on that basically tells you like what episodes to skip. As soon, like, the general rule is if like the episode starts with C-3PO or R2-D2, you can skip the episode. But it's just gonna be like, it's a kid show, but there are some really dark moments in it, and it actually started before Disney, so and then they had one season, like, you know, they brought everything to Disney Plus, but then they did one season, but it's from oh man, this dude's name, I used to say it all the time because that's how big into Star Wars I was.
Keanu.
No, he's the dude that always wears the cap. He's like the second underneath George. Used to be under George Lucas.
What is? I don't know.
He's like Filoni, Dave Filoni. Yeah, so he is now in charge of Star Wars, and he's like George's like second-hand man. So during the time period of all the movies we're talking about, it was Kathleen Kennedy, and now he's, as far as my understanding, I think he's like more in charge of the story aspect now. So things should be looking up. To be honest, though, I don't even have time for Star Wars anymore. So
yeah, I don't blame you. So with the Clone Wars, does it include anything like involving the lore or the story of like Force Unleashed, or is Force Unleashed its own thing? Because that was like my only favorite Star Wars product outside of like
Okay.
Battlefront.
Okay. What about Fallen Order? Fallen Order is phenomenal,
I've never played it.
bro. That is phenomenal.
That was
will
PC
be-
only, right? That didn't come to
No.
the game systems.
No, it has. It started on game systems, I believe. But Fallen Order is
Oh.
dude. No, that there's two of them now, and literally like in terms of story and gameplay and everything, those are the best Star Wars games. And
Okay.
well, besides maybe Knights of the Old Republic, I have
I was
way
gonna
too
say
many
Knights
hours.
of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
Dude,
but
all
no,
my Game Informer magazines would be like, everyone needs to play this dark and brutal version of Star Wars. There's blood, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, damn.
Yeah, no, the yeah. If you watch the Clone Wars, it basically it takes place during literally the Clone Wars, and
Yeah.
it talks about it brings in Ahsoka, and then it's such a great show though because it really does like expand on everything. So when you watch the original movie or 1 through 3, now it's a whole different perspective because every one of those clones, like by watching the Clone Wars, every one of the clones you see has a story.
Ah,
So yeah, and like yeah,
it just
and then
gives you more perspective on a character that should matter.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how about this? How about not destroying the main antagonist of your movie by making him a sissy boy, and then in the next movie making him a tantrum toddler?
Yeah.
More,
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Shut up, Kylo, and then killing him off in the third movie. Like, just it bursts. What is it? It really grinds my gears. What Disney did to Star Wars. That's what I'm gonna say. I
mean,
don't know what
honest,
their writing style is.
yeah, well, they don't either, and you know, it like even the Mandalorian, like it was to me, it's overhyped. Don't get me wrong. When they brought Luke, I jumped up, bro. I was that guy about Star Wars. I like jumped up. I'm like yelling. I'm like, no way, like blah blah blah. But even the Mandalorian, like, what other show would we be willing to watch so many filler episodes, slow moving, and give it a pass? And the only reason we give the Mandalorian a pass is because everything else is crap.
Yeah, that's the truth. Also, let's never forget. This is a never forget situation. There's 9/11, and then there's disrespecting the incredible actress Princess Leia. What's her name again? That's how bad
Carrie
I am
Fisher.
with this. Carrie
I know,
Fisher.
me too. I know
Let's-
it's been
let's
a minute
never
since I've
forget-
had Star Wars
Never
talk.
forget Carrie Fisher flying out of a spaceship and then going like this, and then flying back. Never forget that. That was a thing that
well-
we've now seen.
Well, the only thing that would have made that scene better had she had a cape on. If
No.
she had a cape on, it would have made sense.
Princess Leia Organa. Yes.
Yeah. That was
She-
like that was just such a cheesy moment, man. I was
No,
like, ugh.
it was in poor taste too. Like when they produced or released the movie, at least as far as I know, we were all aware that she had passed away. So they could have just rewritten it that she blew up. So then they didn't have to bring random scenes in for Rise of Skywalker. But no, we got to have Eric Johnson and his Superman idea with Leia. It's just like, what are you doing?
Dude.
Anyway,
And the thing too is like it could like that could have. I mean, okay, it's a special moment because we see she has force powers,
yeah.
but done in that way was so cheesy. It was so like cringy. I'm just like, oh gosh.
Total
And then-
cringe.
Oh yeah, and it's just I don't know, man. There's so many like, and then I could get even into the nerdier stuff about like how like Rise of Skywalker. I think it was Ben where he like uses the lightsaber to like hold himself on the cliff or something, or it was Rey or someone where they like stick the lightsaber in the rock. I'm like, that's not how that works. Like, I mean, but the problem is if I mention that, then everyone's gonna think that I'm the massive nerd. So I can't openly express all my Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Everyone was really excited for Kylo Ren's troop of losers that did nothing. They were so
Knights
excited.
of Ren,
they're like,
dude,
oh,
I
they're
was-
gonna be here.
That could have been so cool too. That could have been so cool.
They got
the-
taken out so fast.
Yeah, I mean, although I do recommend watching the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch is good too, but Rebels.
Rebels. Star Wars
all three of
Rebels.
those, yeah. But start with Clone Wars. Clone Wars is like the one you have to start with.
Notice the theme that Star Wars only does well in animation form when it comes to Disney, except for the Clone Wars. Apparently, they didn't own that yet.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because those are all things that Dave Filoni had like massive control in.
Got it. So Dave Filoni is our only hope.
Oh, dude, you want to look up memes? Literally, those are memes. Like, literally, it's a picture of like Dave Filoni, and basically, you're our only hope. Like, that's a thing. Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Then I'm
yeah.
already part of this meme. I have to find more about Dave Filoni. I have to find everything. This was a great Star Wars chat. This is our pre-chat, everybody. Pre-chat. This isn't the real interview yet. We're going to get into that very, very shortly. We'll actually have exactly an hour from that point on, so it'll work out perfect. Unless Instagram decides to be a bitch and is just like, oh, well, we have a time limit again. We decided that we don't like you talking to people and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's
Remember?
like 2 or 4 hours or something.
They used to have it 2 or 4 hours, and then there was one day where it was like, oh, no, you only get an hour again. I was like, what?
Yeah. That's a good way to promote your business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially the pay to play. If they ever did that, I'd be like, I'm never using Instagram again. I'm sorry, guys. I can't make another interview. Never giving them my time.
Yeah, no, I'll pass. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, guys. Let's get going into the incredible chat that this is going to be. Me and Brad here. We have had a very nice conversation outside of the Instagram, just talking about life, just talking about our own perspectives on things, and that's great. But his main passion besides music is going to be a little controversial for all of you snowflakes out there. So just letting you know, we might tap into some things that are a little bit more controversial. However, as I told you yesterday in my post, I haven't kept up with any current events. So you could literally tell me, like, everyone got bombed, and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'm catching up on the album from last year, so I can't make time for that. I'm sorry. The bombs, that sucks, but I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're talking about. Because I don't care anymore. It's so much news in your face all the time, so.
Maybe someone could add that in the comment of, like, current events, because me and you are the same.
Yeah.
I'm so I have no idea what's going on.
Unless it personally is like close by, or if it's something that I personally would be involved with. Like if Ryan Reynolds got attacked, I would know everything about it, and I would be running to find the guy and slit his throat, because I'd be like, hell no, you are not taking out Deadpool. This is our only hope for Marvel. Don't do this. Don't touch it. Speaking of Deadpool, we'll definitely dive into some Marvel and things like that as well. But I will just say, like, the things that matter to so many people that they just get so upset about, I don't understand it, because the odds, if you were to go just statistically, percentage-wise, of things that could actually personally affect you all the way over in another country, it's so minuscule that it's like not even there. I would say let's fix America first, and then let's worry about everybody else. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's my strong hot take right there.
Did you want to start off with that?
No. We're gonna jump into the
okay.
whole thing, man. I'm gonna get you the full intro and everything. I want to give you the biggest shout out ever, because you reached out to me
Thank
first,
you.
which is an amazing thing that most people usually don't do. They usually find me through a friend or so, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I'll just wait until this guy messages me." But you were just like, "Hey, dude, let's talk," and I was like, "Oh." Like literally, like an hour of talking after that. I was like, hell yeah, like voice chat. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What a crazy thing. Yeah. It's cool though. Anybody that wants to reach out to me, feel free to message me at any time. And yeah, I'm happy to chat with you whenever I have a moment. Either way, let's jump right in right now.
Let's do it.
What's up, guys? And welcome to the Media Man Dan podcast. Today I have an absolutely amazing, legendary music producer all the way over in South California, otherwise known as SoCal, one of my favorite places for all of my guests, and Brad is no exception. He is going to be one of my favorite guests, and he's going to fix my voice crack right there. That is how cool he is. He's a producer. He's a mastermind.
Get on it right now.
Yes, he's on it right now. He's fixing it as we speak. Literally, he's going to auto-tune that shit. So, what's up, Brad? It's great to have you on the podcast. You've produced for so many artists that I've already talked to, and I would love to hear your story. Overall, it's great to have you here, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, just give you a little background. you know, I started out doing this this whole music thing. I was in the military. I got out, and you know, I had always recorded myself like at, you know, my house and stuff in an apartment. And so I got out of the military, and then I believe it or not, actually, Home Run Vince here in the chat, he actually was my very, very first client. And so we're sitting at, or I was playing at Sam Ashton, like the little acoustic guitar room, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, you want to jam?" And which, you know, as a musician, it's like that never happens. Like the egos are so high as a musician at like a guitar store, and so someone actually like hit me up. Let me turn off my, see if is the sound coming through?
Yeah,
The
you're
little
perfect,
pings?
dude.
Okay. And yeah, so he comes up, he's like, "Hey, you want to jam?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. All right, let's do it." And good morning, Michelle. And yeah, so he comes up, he's like, "You want to jam?" No problem. So we start playing, and then he's like, "Hey, do you know anyone that records?" And I had just bought a MacBook, and I had GarageBand. And you know, just being real, I really needed money. I was like, "Dude, yeah, I could record you." And he's like, "Oh, cool." So he set up a date, and you know, basically I remember I was just researching everything I could for, you know, for how to record and, you know, what to know about recording. And I remember 3 days without, or it was like 2.5 days without any sleep. I might have had like an hour of sleep. I was on YouTube constantly, like sitting on the couch. I'd eat, watch YouTube, because I didn't want to, it was a paid client, so I didn't want to, like, you know, not provide something.
Yeah.
And not know what I'm doing. And sure enough, and, you know, to be honest, like looking back now, it's like, man, I'm surprised he like showed up, because most people, you know, "Oh, let's meet up," and then that never happens. But he actually, yeah, he showed up. You know, he lived about 45 minutes away from me. He drove up to my apartment, and I had my little desk and a laptop, and we recorded a whole album.
Amazing.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
a little laptop at a small desk. Just so you guys know out there that we don't have the professional setting that you would expect Dr. Dre to have. This is just one little spot, and Brad's passion that propelled him to make an awesome project. See there, I'm adding so much alliteration for no apparent reason.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was crazy too, because I remember, like, I had like a pair of headphones, and then I didn't even have like computer monitors, like, or like speakers for mixing. I literally had like one of those old, like, little computer, they were like gray. Like, I don't know if you remember, like back from like the 90s almost. It's like, they're like these old gray speakers, and I only had one of them. So I mixed the whole thing on just one speaker. Yeah.
That was unplanned mono speaker right there.
Unplanned mono speaker, which is funny, because I was on a live like 3 days ago with another audio engineering friend of mine, and I still actually mix in mono. Like, I literally do. I'll turn off one speaker, and then I'll just like turn this way and face the one speaker, make sure everything's in mono, and then I just mix in mono. So it's like, it's something that, like, I never made a conscious like connection between that until just now, but yeah, I actually still do that. So
Exclusive.
yeah, exclusive.
Exclusive. Yeah, we gotta get like the DJ in there.
Yeah, exclusive. Yeah, but it was so that was kind of the start, and then from there, you know, I had a blast. I spent a lot of time working on it, and I mean, to be honest, like, is it good by my standards today? Of course not. But, you know, compared to what I would consider other people doing at the time, it was actually not too bad, for considering, you know, I had no knowledge, working only in GarageBand, not knowing anything with one little speaker, you know, and even then I did the whole car test. I mean, I would go down to my car 30 times to go listen to it. You know, and now there's like technology where you could just stream it to your phone and be like, okay, well, I need to do this. But, you know, at the time there wasn't. And so that's how I got started. And then after that I had I think my next client was a band called Fox Hunt, and they were like kind of like a Mumford and Sons kind of style band. Okay. And they did a little EP, and then from there, for some reason, I forget how, after that, I got hit up on Facebook. I think maybe because I was like posting pictures or something. I can't remember how, but I had a band that just moved from Iowa to Southern California, and they found me and they hit me up, and that the band is 22 Salute, and they're still playing today, and we still record, but they were my first like legit like full band doing things. And we're still great friends. We still track. They just released a new single not too long ago. So, and then from there, just kind of came to be where I'm at now.
That's awesome, man. So you've worked with probably many genres, many different types of people, like you were saying, the egos that go on. A lot of people that are not trying to be producers. You don't get to hear the horror stories of what can happen, but I went to school originally to try to be an audio producer. Obviously, I'm not, so it didn't work out, but I loved what I learned, and my teacher was amazing, and Mr. Barry, shout out to him. I could say, what was his name, Barry? I don't even know if his name's right anymore. See, that's how bad it is. My memory's terrible, dude. Either way, he was great, and he would talk about like working with Aerosmith, working with these huge names, right? And he would be like, what would you guys do? Because it's not just about the music. It's not just about the production. It's about the personal connection that we have. He's like, what would happen if you were stuck in a conflict situation where the vocalist just does not like your take, right? You're like, oh, you have to get paid. Obviously, you have to do it right, but this guy's just being a jackass instead of, listening to your perspective on it because they're paying you to produce the music that they want to hear the most. And so he's like, what if someone's just like, they're steamed, they can't get through this recording session without somebody like calming them down. I was like, I would probably just like change the subject. He's like, you would just change the subject? I'm like, yeah, it would be like, hey man, what do you hear in yourself? What have you always wanted to hear in yourself? And then, just work with that. Be like, oh, okay, you like to record this way? Okay, well, I know this, and this about that. Like, most people that don't know, the AKG C414, I think is what it's called, that is an amazing microphone, well known for a lot of great artists, including Eminem. So if I was working with a rapper, I would be like, maybe we're just not using the right mic. Let's get this C414 and see what happens. Like that clarity there. Maybe you just didn't hear the right reverb. Maybe we didn't have the right take. Maybe we just needed a couple more times. And how he's like, what? That's crazy. You could never like just instantly think of that. Of like, dude, I love people. What can I say? I know how to talk. It's like, it's no big deal for me to go through conflict as long as I know what I'm talking about. The issue is when you get flustered at them, be like, this is just a stubborn artist. So in your case, you've been with many people, you've been with so many egos. What was like one of those challenging moments, and how did you overcome it? This sounds like a job interview right now.
No, that's fine. Are you hiring? It's one of those things where, there's been plenty of times in the studio, actually, like not often, but there has been enough times to where there's like, a vocalist. I'll start it from this perspective. If a vocalist is having an issue with a part, like they just can't do it right, and it's tricky for them. The number one thing that I usually resort to is like, all right, like my first thing is like, all right, take a break, just shake it off, get some water, look at your phone, go on Instagram. We'll give it about 2 minutes, and then come back, and then you're gonna nail it. And usually, honestly, that actually just helps, just clearing the headspace. So that would be in the case of like, someone's having an issue. Honestly, just a little quick thing like that, or I'm not trying to like sound cocky or anything, but I always like I tend to have a very good attitude while recording. So all the, like, the constant like, hey, good job. Oh man, that was solid. Beautiful. Those things, they come out naturally. So the insecurities, especially as a vocalist, like, because it's your voice, it's who you are. So it's a little different than like a guitar or drums, right? Yep. But it's one of those things where from the get-go, I'm already trying to build them up, because having the head clear is what matters the most as a vocalist. Now, let's say there's, a disagreement on a part. Honestly, that doesn't really happen for me, because at the end of the day, I'm working for the artist. So what they want goes. Will I put in my suggestion? Yes. Will I say like, can we please try this? Or like, like, are you sure? Like, that kind of thing. Like, I'll really like, I'll push it as far as that goes. but you know, and I don't have like a hard set rule. It's just one of those things that like you have to read the room, right? And you know, but you know, if they keep saying no, like, hey, take the hint, you know, that they don't want to do that or they don't like that. So, you know, it's one of those things where this is a very like, you know, it's a very intimate job. You have to know each personality. You have to adapt very well. You know, because some people are a lot more like just crazy and wild, making constant like, you know, insulting jokes, and it's like, okay, let's go, we're gonna have some fun. And then other clients are more chill, and they just want to like, you know, try to, you know, have more of a quiet room, and they just want to focus. And you just got to read the room, and you know, and some people, you know, they might do a great job, and my response will be like, yeah, that was all right, let's move on. Or another client will do a great job. I'll be like, hey, that was freaking like perfect or something, you know, like,
Yeah.
It's all giving the same boost of morale, just in completely different ways, but it all resorts to the same place, making the client comfortable.
Overall, it's read the room.
Read the room, 100%.
Read the room.
And
okay.
Yeah, and you know, I actually had a teacher one time in college. He told me, shout out to Phil Mantione. I'll never forget. He was like, you know, you could be an okay mix engineer, but if you're really good with working with people, that'll do more than the mix. And I was like, that's, you know, and luckily, as I could tell you are as well, like, you know, it's one of my strong traits is to be friendly with people and to really like assist. That's like kind of like a naturally giving tendency. So it really comes in handy here, you know, like, you know, it's like, oh, do you want a water, you know, or something like that. But
see, like the main, like, I guess saying is like music is therapy. And you would never think about it as somebody on the outside. Most of us that have had any experience with a mixing board, production in any way, but I volunteered at my church. I was working with the mixer. I was mixing the choir, getting the priest mics, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so as I was learning stuff in school, then that guy that was teaching me all of this stuff on hands-on stuff, I was like, oh, cool. So I learned this today. And he'd be like, oh, you want to see how that works and blah, 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 blah. So it was like really cool hands-on. But like what my opinion is that just like you were saying, you need to have that personal connection. I consistently think of like how many jobs are almost close to social work or therapy, like literal social work, of course, because, you know, you're talking, but it just feels like that therapy because you're going to know that person so well. You're going to have a great perspective, and you're going to have to know all of the different like sides of them, and then all the other people that you know too. Like you said, that you're going to have those outrageous, like talking shit kind of people, and you know that that's not someone to be offended by. But then you know if the quiet guy is upset, then he's actually upset. So it's like you have to understand, and you have to, like you said, adapt to each and every personality, and that's what really brings it together. And most people would just think, oh, you just hit play and, you know, just plug in a microphone, man, that's all you gotta do. It's so easy.
And you know what, unfortunately, a lot of people as recording engineers, like or that say they're recording engineers, that's literally what they do. They just hit record. They don't care about the take. They're thinking like
Money,
you know, money. Yeah, and I'm like first off, like if you're charging like, you know, $20 an hour or whatever to track per hour, like you're not at the spot, like you're not at the spot to where you could think about money. Like you need to think about growing. So, you know, it's how can I make this more money? How can I make more money per hour? That should be the mindset, as opposed to like, well, I'm making $20 an hour, so I don't really care what I'm doing. Like, you cool with that, bro? Like, you know, put some effort. Like, your name's gonna be on this. Like, you know. So, and that leads me to another thing too. Like, everything I release from the studio, like, my name is on it. And also, like, I don't want to, like, it's one of those things, like, where even just one recording session, like, as just a pure business move, there are so many things that I could get out of that one session. I could get video, I could get, you know, content to share on social media, as well as the actual recording itself. Like, I want to make sure everything is legit, because this is an opportunity where I can now do one task, and with a little bit of extra time, now I have all these things filled up as well with just one session. So
It works so well to just pre-plan everything, and it works so well to have the passion that you do. Like you were saying, that there's a lot of audio engineers that will just hit play, that will just be like, oh yeah, that was great because you said it's great. I'm going to say, yeah, it's great. My issue when it comes to the ego of somebody that is a singer is that I've heard a lot of raw takes, and especially my friends when they're recording their albums, they're always doing this one take thing, and I'm always like, can you double the vocals? Can you layer the vocals? Can you do anything? And they're like, no, I like it the way it is. I'm like, that's perfect. I mean, my Frank Sinatra, I don't consider it any perfection or anything, but I was like, that's a one take. That's how it's supposed to sound. Had I layered it, I would have made that shit sound 10 times better, and I wouldn't have had those little clips and everything come from my bad Wi-Fi. But all of that happens, and you're like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional in any case, but I always say, like, why wouldn't you want to have the extra, like, depth to your sound, especially knowing that I'm such a big fan of the band Red. They have, like, so many layers to their music. If you ever check out Rob Graves just going through his whole production process, he has a couple of videos where you can see, like, all the lines that he would go through. He's like, here's the vocals, it's like 16 lines. He's like, this is where Mike comes in the best, and, like, here's all this. I'm just like, how I would need, like, a screen as big as my room, like every single side of my room, would be like, okay, that's where it starts, that's where it ends.
I know. No, actually, yeah. Real quick, like a little off subject, but I'm like so ready to upgrade my monitor just because like everything is being designed for 4K now. Which for audio, it's just like no. It's like I'd rather keep it at like 1080 and just have like more processing power. But that's besides the point. I need a new monitor. But but no, it's like it's one of those things where it's like. That's the difference between putting that extra, 10%. The people that put the extra 10% into one thing typically put the extra 10% into most things. Maybe not everything, but some people just don't have that. Some people are just get it done and just whatever, And luckily, like where I'm at now, it's again, not trying to sound like big-headed or anything, but I think the price that I charge for the projects, when people come, they respect an outside opinion, whether it's mine or someone else's. So, now I'm at the point now where like a lot of the clients are like, oh yeah, we could try that, or oh, that's cool. Or sometimes they literally like they'll just lay down the basic instruments and then they just let me build the whole song after that. So but it's one of those things where it's like it's all about like the level of the artist, and the other thing too is like artists sometimes don't know the mixing side, what I mean, and the production side. So what they're listening to from their favorite bands, they haven't paid close enough attention to all the stuff that's going on in the background. So, when I used to record like, smaller bands, they wouldn't know, hey, like we should do this. And they're like, no, because they don't understand, or they haven't heard all the layers. So when you try to add the layers, they're like, wait, what's this? And it's maturity as an artist, and also building trust with the producer as well.
Yes.
But but luckily that doesn't happen too much anymore. So
that's great. But yeah, I could say like I interviewed Against the Sun, and your work that you've done with them. Have you been there from the beginning for that band?
Not from the beginning. I did their last EP, and then I did their new one that they're working on, or that we're done with it for the most part. But they're releasing it and all their cool business tactics.
I'm going to sound exactly the same for you, but I'm going to say this into the mic. My favorite EP. All right, there we go. Because
they're awesome dudes. They're awesome dudes to work with. Obviously very talented, and it's a lot of fun working on their stuff. They definitely have like because they're actually sending me, like they record themselves and then they send it to me for mixing and then and editing and stuff. And so it's it's one thing that I really, really appreciate about the band, besides like just the musical stuff, but is actually like when they say like, hey, we're gonna do this on this day, they really do mean it. When they say like, hey, we're tracking vocals on Sunday and we'll have it to you on Monday, when I go into the studio, the vocals will be there on Monday. So they're
But
very
you don't know
like,
how hard they are on themselves while they're doing it. They're like, "Fuck!"
yeah. They're like, I should
told
have
him
told
I was
Brad
gonna have it by
Tuesday.
Monday.
Yeah. No, but they're very consistent about that type of stuff. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, and thank you, Michelle. But yeah, it's one of those things where like they're very, I just like on the business end of things, it just makes everything so much smoother. Because especially like, in this type of work, it's like, I have multiple projects to be, bouncing around. So when things come in late, it's like, well, now I had to push someone else in front because your project came in late, and I don't want to do that, but what am I going to do? Just, sit on my phone all day, or, so it's really nice working with artists that take their work as serious as I put into their work. And that's another thing,
Timeliness is extremely important. Like if they don't have a product for you to work on, and that was my biggest question. I was going to think about the worst time in American history in the past couple of years was the pandemic, and like how hard it must have been for people to send digital files. But apparently Against the Sun is one that already does that. So I was like, oh, nothing. All right, here we go.
Yeah. No,
New file
honestly,
came
like,
in, edited it up.
yeah. No, it's that's where I was kind of fortunate, because a lot of people, were having, financial struggles and stuff, and for me, it was pretty much the same. It didn't really slow me down. I had people coming in, like whatever, and but it was one of those things where it's I like when I have a band that, again, like kind of repeating the same thing, I guess, but it's one of those things where I like to work with artists where they're putting as much time and effort into their project as I am, because I promise every client I am going to put in so much effort to the best of my ability. And it's one of those things. I mean, there's mixes, like sometimes I'll wrap them up super quick, pretty smooth sailing. Maybe I got a lot of sleep or, a lot of caffeine or something, and my ears are just on and boom, boom, boom. And then there's other times where it takes me, a long time, and it's frustrating. And, I'm just like, man, like I just can't get this thing to sound how I want. And and then usually my go-to, believe it or not, is like I'll go to Target and then just kind of like walk around, like buy something to eat, and then come back, and then usually I'm like, okay, or hit the gym and then Target and then come back,
Dude, it's literally exactly how your body should react to stress, is that you need to get away from that for a little bit and then come back to it, because you'll have a fresh perspective. Food helps immensely. It helps me a lot too. Just when I'm like, oh man, I feel down today, what is it? And I'm like, oh, I'll have an apple. Boom, I'm okay now.
yeah. Oh, well, actually, Dylan, he just hopped on. He's from a band, Amnesty for the Martyr, and
Awesome.
he is one of the prime examples of those artists that it's just filled with laughter, insults, jokes, the whole 9 yards. It's always a great time working with them. So thanks for
Awesome.
tuning in, Dylan. Awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Dylan here. What was the band name? I gotta interview you guys too.
Yeah, Amnesty for the Martyr, bro. They're great, great people, great dudes. Like, just lots of fun, lots of laughs, all those kind of things.
Sick.
Yeah, and very, very talented.
Yeah, well, you guys have so much of just a great metal scene, but I want to see how your overall genres, subgenres are in the SoCal area. I'm gonna keep going through until my name shows up on some billboard one day, and they're like, "Who the heck is that guy from Chicago?" And I'll be like, "Hey, I talked to 1,000 artists in your area."
Yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
not
yeah.
in
No.
the area, but
No.
you guys are
My
cool.
nose is itchy.
No,
Yeah.
it's
No. Yeah. I don't know why. It's like it's allergies or something. I don't know. But and I got a big nose, man. So it's a lot to work with. But
yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. But some of the craziest things. Do you mind if I answer the question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's like cool. Okay, so Jason says, Brad, what are some of the craziest things that have happened in your studio? All right, I'll give you one good and one bad. One good one. What I used to do is I used to actually have parties here. So I would literally just have people show up, just bump the music. There's no sound restrictions in the complex. So literally it's just bump the music. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun times. One funny moment, and I won't mention who, But there was, and I don't know how much I could say like on Instagram, so I'll try to like censor it a little bit. But
You
they
can say
were
whatever
drinking.
you want.
Yeah, they were drinking, and they also had another substance at the same time, usually referred
Okay.
to as cross faded. And this dude,
I don't even know what that is. I'm so straight
Yeah.
edge, bro. I'm like, out of
okay,
the
all
loop.
right. Yeah, so I mean, there's
Pixie
like
dust.
there's a lot of there's a lot of people. Long story short, I just walk out and this dude's like out in the parking lot. He's puking. He passes out between the door and like where the door is like shut and closed. You know, like
Yeah.
basically like he's half outside on the parking lot and then half in the studio. Just passed out right there, and then you know, someone locked the bathroom door by accident, so we had to like rappel from the roof to get it. And then oh no, you know what? We were going sorry. That was way better than what happened. We
Okay.
almost rappelled through the roof, but we ended up taking out the whole door to get back in. People were like laying around everywhere, just drunk, passed out. And it was a pretty funny time at the studio.
That's a
One of
wild
the-
night.
Yeah, now that's the good end. The bad story. I had a buddy of mine. He used to kind of like help out here at the studio sometimes, and you know, I went to college with him. He's a good friend, and he would sit in on sessions, you know, kind of help out and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, can I have a client come in?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, you know, just pay some studio time to go to me, you know, since I have to be here and you know, open it up and everything. But you could have him in." So he gets the client. He's never met this client before, right? And so the client wants to come in. I believe it was like a 9 p.m. start time, so it was already like kind of late. And so he comes in, and my friend's on the computer. The guy goes in, starts tracking, and he brings a friend as well, so it's 2 people. So
Okay.
they're tracking, everything's fine. Well, now it's starting to hit around like 11 o'clock, and I think he had like a 2-hour block or something.
Mm-hmm.
And while in there, he starts, right? I don't want to say it. Yeah, on Instagram, but you know what I mean.
Starts sniffing the good stuff.
Yeah, the energy level goes up. So he starts getting like his rapping is kind of starting to like, it's just off, right?
Yeah.
So he comes in, and then like it's around like 11:30. He's like, "Hey, can I pay you for another hour?" My friend, you know, looks at me. I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. And then another hour, and then another hour, and he keeps throwing. And then I'm like, "Nah, dude, we're done." And he starts throwing down money on the table. He throws his energy booster powder on the table.
Oh my God.
He's like on the table, like right next to us. He's like, no, we're recording more. And he starts to get a little aggressive.
Ooh.
And we're like, and by this point it's like 2 a.m. And we're like, and then his friend starts to calm him down. And there was one other small situation, but I was a little worried because he was supposed to come back for something and never did, and he wasn't very happy when he left. Now, mind you, it wasn't my session, but you know, it was one of those things where I was like, well, if he comes back, like, there's more information that, you know, I don't want to kind of disclose here, but
Yeah, I get that.
let's just put it this way, that like I did have to actually I was a little worried about someone breaking in.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh boy. But yeah, that was probably like the worst situation.
You're so
You know,
lucky.
I am.
You know how
I
many
am.
people have been like, "Oh man, I was recording with this guy, and he was a good rapper, and his rival gang came up and started
Yeah,
popping
yeah.
up the plays, and like, what?"
Yeah, no. Luckily, I don't have anything like that. Actually, this one happened, I think, like 4 days ago. I had a session, and long story short, basically, I'm like a stickler about my computer. I want to know where every file is. I I need everything super clean. Well, long story short, storage was full. It wasn't anything like that I could just easily remove, like, you know, move on a hard drive. It wasn't anything like that. Storage was full, and it was bugging me so much that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna reset my computer and I'll just reinstall everything. And so I did that, and for some reason my interface wasn't connecting, so I spent about 5 hours trying to get the interface to connect. Went home. Now, mind you, this is the day before a session at this point. And I'm like, so I go home, I was like, man, I'll just wake up at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, try to wrap everything up before the session. And I had dinner, and I couldn't let it go. So I drive back to the studio. Mind you, I have an hour drive to the studio. So
Wow.
I drive back, trying to figure it out. 1 o'clock comes. I'm like, you know, I'm just going to disconnect everything and just have this computer like completely from scratch with the interface, right? I unplug the first cable. As soon as I do, the interface came on. It was simply some sort of bandwidth issue within the computer that, like the order of which things load. And it was literally just my webcam. As soon as I disconnected my webcam, everything set up perfectly.
Oh,
I was like,
my God.
you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. So I stayed up till about 2, got home at around 2:45ish somewhere. Came right back down at 6 and reinstalled everything right before the session.
So my biggest question, since it's coming to technology issues and things like that, now you probably had plenty of good rookie mistakes. Did you ever have one where you didn't hit record? Because I've had it, I think 3 times now since I started using Skype. I was like in the middle of conversation. I'm like, "This is the best combo ever. All right, you guys have a good day." And I'm like, "Oh
Wait,
shit,
am I
now
supposed
they
to record this
recorded."
right now? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
no.
right.
Yeah, no. So if I accidentally hit, like if I have a client in and I accidentally hit, playback instead of record, I usually catch it within 2 seconds because I'll see like, oh, it's not recording. But no, I haven't done that. I've never lost any files,
Okay.
which is good. In the over 10 years that I've been doing this, never lost a file. Yeah, I keep everything. Like when it comes to like my
Fingers
computer,
crossed
it's like,
for that, man. Fingers crossed.
yeah,
I'm
knock
not
on
losing
wood.
any files.
Knock on wood. Yeah. No, I'm usually really good on like backups and stuff like that. I have a backup on the backup.
Browno was making a joke here. He's like, one of them was me. Ha ha ha.
Ah,
Yeah,
no.
it was true. So Browno and I, we talked 3 times. 3 times. All of them have been deleted. And Browno, this is exclusive information for you, dude. I lost our Patreon one too. Like, I don't know what it is with my brain. My memory just does not work. Because I was like, oh, Skype, I have plenty of time. I'm going to be able to download this and this and this and this. And then I'm like, okay, cool. It comes up to the day and I'm like, oh yeah, I have plenty of time. I can download it. And it's like, this expired 3 days ago. I'm like, oh my God, I lost it. I lost everything. All of that work for no reason. But we had a great convo. We made up for it. But yeah, it was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Because this guy had he had every single experience he could with me. First time I was just leaving my job, dealing with a lot of stress. Then we were just talking. And then later on, I was already dealing with a lot of stress. It got worse. And then we're talking. And then bring him on. And it just so happened to be his birthday. And so that was the Patreon thing. And I was making his reaction, getting him to see how reactions are made behind the scenes. And now that footage is gone too. I'm like, oh my God, this is endless.
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Yes, another excuse to chat again. That's true. He is my friend from the UK. Everyone should go and follow Browno Music. He's an awesome dude. Really, really nice, genuine person. All right,
Take care.
anyway. So you haven't lost any footage, thank God. You haven't lost any data or downloads. Pretty great. I don't know what computer you have, but I need it because this thing is terrible. Like anytime I'm recording OBS, it's the only thing that sticks around. Everything else, it's like, this file is too much space. I'm like, what do you mean it has too much space? I only got a couple of songs on here.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Truly. But so my biggest question outside of the music stuff, what is one of your main passions that really like elevated your interest to go to the level that you're at right now? Your drive, your perseverance to go and drive from your house and back an hour to fix your interface. Like that doesn't happen for somebody that just sat on the couch and watched YouTube all day. So.
Well, it comes down to just being real. It comes down to people are paying me for a service, and if I don't provide them with the best service, then I failed. So I can't just sit down and relax, knowing that I have to do this stuff where there's a potential where everything won't be set up by the time they get in. Like even just the potential for that, just I couldn't go to sleep, you know. So I even while I was eating dinner, I was like, man, like why did I drive home? I should have just stayed. And like, you know, so like it's one of those things. Like it's just it all comes down to you know, just being honestly like. Here's what I'll say about this. I have like, you know, some people have it, some people don't. I truly do have like a perfectionist kind of thing, like mentality towards a lot of aspects of my life. Not everything. I'm trying to make it everything, but it's one of those things where it's like I do have a good like balance between time and, you know, how close to perfection I could get within that time. So for me, you know, every project is going to be, I'm going to spend time on it. I want to make sure that I'm in the right headspace before I even start. That's a big thing too. Like, I want to make sure that like, hey, like, am I good to work on this track right now? Like, am I in that mood to work on the track? Sometimes I just have to work on the track regardless of my mood. But it is one of those things where it's like, you know, it's got to be done, but I try to manage it to where it's like, okay, let me get into the headspace of working on this fast track or this, you know, slow track, whatever. I don't know if that answered the question, or maybe I was just going on a tangent.
No, you're good. You're good. That makes sense. So you've always had the drive. It's just been in your blood, basically. You've never had anything that was like, you had like a sport that you had to go to all the time, so you were so used to scheduling yourself outside of your comfort zone and things like that.
Yeah, no, actually, well, I mean, like I took martial arts like from middle school into high school. So I don't know if that like had anything to do with it, but honestly, I like
self-discipline. It's good.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But honestly, I'm actually more disciplined today than I was yesterday.
There you go.
So one of my big things too is like I rarely listen to music in the car unless it's for a learning experience. Yeah, so I'm always on podcasts, like listening to podcasts, listening to stuff like that. My number one that I go to, like the genre of like podcast stuff, is actually like, I don't want to get into like the woo-woo stuff, but like self-help. And what I mean by self-help is actually more so motivational stuff, like from David Goggins, like that kind of motivation.
Yes.
Like, hey, like wake up early, take care of your shit.
Damn right. Damn right.
Yeah. So what? I mean, okay. Here's a little snippet that people will be like, okay, this dude's out of his mind. Like as soon as I'm leaving, I'll put on some sort of podcast where it's about like, hey, like get your life together, do this, like put in the work, those kind of motivational stuff. Mm-hmm. Before I get to the studio, it's usually around the same stoplight. I sound crazy, but I promise you this is real. If I'm not like excited to get to the studio, I will literally like self-talk to myself in the car, and I'll say like, you got this, you got this, you got this, you're gonna knock this shit out in an hour. I'll literally tell myself that, because that's exactly what people in sports do. A quarterback will literally talk to themselves. We don't really hear it often because it's not like mic'd up properly or whatever, but they literally like you have to like literally say it and speak it. And sometimes I'll do that, if I'm not in the mood to mix, sometimes I'm not. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to knock the shit out quick. I got it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And I'll just say that from like, it's usually, like I said, it's usually this like one stoplight that I tend to get in that zone at that stoplight. but yeah. And, but then I overthink too. And then, this happened a while back, but like, I was thinking like, well, now I don't want to like make it a thing at the stoplight for me to say that, because now it loses its like specialty. Like, I don't want to make it so like, oh, concrete at this stoplight, I have to say it. So then I made a mental note to like, okay, well, don't say it at this stoplight, like say it at the next one.
I love it.
Yeah, and then once I did that, I was like, now I'm starting to overthink it too much. So now I'm gonna go back to the other stoplight. So,
that's the planning.
Yeah, but no joke. Yeah, but no joke. Like, it's literally like, just literally like prep yourself up like you're about to go into war. Like, I got
Yes.
this. And you could do that about, basically anything in life, Sometimes, it could be about, like, I don't know, going into the grocery store and having to deal with all the people. It could be that. It could be, obviously, again, going to the gym, or it could be, going to the DMV where you're going to have to pull a ticket and wait 3 hours.
Yeah.
Unless you
Oh,
unless you
man.
made an appointment.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about podcasts, and I
Mm-hmm.
love that you said that because it seems like it is becoming more of a norm to listen to podcasts than it is to listen to music these days. But as a producer, I would also imagine that you don't want to have all these comparisons going on in your head, like, oh my God, how the hell did they mix that? I want to do that. Like, that would drive you crazy because you'd be like, I'm trying to match or outdo this person's stuff. So, I mean, podcasts are also really good for motivation as well. My favorite podcast currently is called the Real AF Podcast. It's with Andy Frisella. He is an amazing entrepreneur. He's a cultural icon, I guess you could say, because he always has an outside of the box kind of perspective on things that are going on in the world. Every so often, he'll align with the right wing, and then he'll jump back and go center, and then he'll go back to the right. It's like it's
Yeah.
amazing how much he bounces, but he's not like full on I'm this way and I'll always think this way. He always has
Yeah.
an open perspective, and he brings on guests that have open perspectives as well. But one
Yeah.
of his most famous things is that he created something called the 75 Hard program. And the 75 Hard program
I've heard of that.
is yeah, you know it.
I might know the podcaster because I know I've heard that.
Awesome. It's fantastic. It really gets your mindset right, and I would recommend getting his new book, which is called The Book on Mental Toughness. And everyone, if you want to go and get it, it's literally $30.
Okay, I know
And-
I know I've heard this dude. I'm sorry to interrupt. I know I've heard this dude because that book sounds familiar too.
Okay, he probably had Goggins on his thing, and or vice
Probably.
versa. Yeah, and so Andy is like such a motivational guy, and so he taught me like be tough with yourself. It's not like you want to be so sensitive. There's one podcast I listen to, and it's like you don't want to hurt yourself. You've been hurt in the past. You want to feel better. And then there's Andy, and it's like my alarm sets up every single morning. Wake the fuck up, pussy. Get your day
Yeah.
started. Get out of bed,
yeah.
you asshole. Like it's
Yeah.
just you need to have that kick in the ass, as unfortunately canceled comedian Dane Cook used to say. We're Americans. We need a kick in the ass in order to fix anything. If you've never seen his skit on 15
It's been a
Cents,
minute. Yeah, it's been a minute, but
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
that is
it's
it's great.
yeah, no, it's one of those things too. Like I put my I put my phone like on right underneath the TV, so in the morning the alarm goes off, and right next to it I have push-up handles.
Nice.
So yeah, so literally like as soon as I wake up, turn off the alarm, and the push-up handles are right there. Before I even have to use the restroom or anything, I have to do push-ups. I'm not like really strict about the amount, but it's something. And then basically after that, like mind you, I'm still like my eyes are still shut. I'm just like, and but it's one of those things. And then I'll after I use the restroom, I'll drink 30 ounces of water, and then I started the day.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly the thing with 75 Hard. You have to drink 3 gallons a day. Not 3 gallons.
Yeah.
One,
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
gallon
yeah.
of water a day.
Yeah.
That would,
3 gallons
that
of
would
water.
kill
Oof.
people. Don't have 3
Yeah.
gallons a day.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be rough.
That would be
I
real
burp
rough.
up
But
fish.
my
Yeah.
own thing, like you said, you wake up and you have it right next to the things that you can start doing the weights. I usually am like, okay, my phone is going to be the error of my ways tonight. Whatever I do, whether it's going to be social media, YouTube, or the regular internet, is going to ruin my day. So what I need to do is keep this shit out of my room. And all I tell myself, I'm like, it's simple and easy. Put the fucking thing inside of the shoe. That's all I have to do. Keep
Yeah.
the shoes downstairs. Have that there. I have an iPod for my alarm. I have a main alarm that I can plug in as well. And I'm like, that way I know that if I get distracted at night, it's from things that aren't going to be so engaging that you are just addicted. And the best
Yep.
thing to do for everyone that has that kind of problem where you're just on your phone scrolling all night long, work out. You're going to do a couple
Yeah.
of push-ups, do a couple of jumping jacks, whatever
Something.
you can do. As soon as you finish that, if you're not sleepy, you are an Iron Man. You are able to handle all of the Olympic challenges, and you probably should be a bodybuilder because there's no way that you get through with like 10 push-ups, literally only 10 push-ups before bed, and you get up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm still totally gonna watch things on my phone. No, you're like, I'm dead. That's it. Game over.
Well, what's a fun one to do as well is what I used to do. Okay, so here's like a little side thing, and I'll be honest, like sometimes I fall back into it, and I'm not really happy about it. But one is, if you don't have a business or you're not working on things with social media, there's no need. You don't technically need it, right?
Yeah.
But I get it. It's fun. It's whatever, right? But set a time frame of when you'll allow yourself to look at your phone. For a long time, I think it was over a year, I had it set to where I wouldn't even look at my phone, text messages, nothing till about 11 a.m.
That's really good.
And dude, it was 11. Yeah, it was 11, or was it 12? It was 11 or 12. I can't remember. But basically, the way I know is because I wouldn't look at it until I got to the studio. So, and I would wake up early. So, and usually I get here around 11 or 12. But it was one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't look at it. If people need to reach me, I have a few select people for emergencies. If not, then on a focus mode or whatever, you could select like certain people to still allow to text you.
Yeah.
I had that set up, and literally I turned off any notifications on the front of my phone. So I wouldn't know if someone texted me, someone did, not, it doesn't matter. And I wouldn't look at my phone until that time period. And honestly, man, it's crazy how much, and you don't realize it until after, but it's crazy how long it takes you to get stuff done when the phone is allowed up to a certain point. For example, this is just a random example here, but brushing my teeth, I would be, I'd put on a podcast. Well, without that podcast, now I'm brushing my teeth. I'm not going to say quicker, I'm all about dental hygiene, but you know what I mean? It somehow it didn't take me as long. And then, just getting dressed, not worried about, here, I'm not enjoying this podcast. Let me go back and switch it before I get dressed. Those.
Dude, anytime you clean the house and you can't get the right song and you're just like, oh man, this is wrong, and then all of a sudden something distracts you. I got ADHD, so that doesn't help me at all. And so I would always be like, oh well, it's not the right song, I gotta clean to the right song. Nope, that's not the right song, that's not the right song.
And
a whole hour later.
And it's funny too because there's an amount of humility to admit these things, right?
Yep.
And I for me, I'm the same way. If I'm, I'm better now, but I, especially before, it was like, oh man, I have to have, again, it's like, if I'm not enjoying this piece of content while I'm doing another activity, I can't do the activity until this piece of content is fixed or changed. And how silly of an idea that is, right? And it's one of those things where you got to be humble to recognize that. And you gotta, be like, man, am I actually trying to learn every day? Am I trying to grow, or am I just going through the motion? And every day is valuable,
The best thing that I can say for people that are struggling with motivation is that you need to have one of the simple programs I listen to is called The Mindful Habit, but you need to have an attainable goal that you can do every day. That little attainable goal needs to be there. My attainable goal is that I get to work on time. It's a pretty normal thing that you should naturally do, but I have had issues where I leave the house late. I tell myself I'm going to leave on time, or I will remind my fiance, I'm like, hey, if I'm in the shower at this time, slam on the door, Dan, go to work. I got to get it. I got to get it in my head that I need to be there. And today I'm doing the same thing. But it's the drive to get to work that's the best part of it. So what I did is I created a goal. I don't start listening to the podcast until I'm in the car. So that's a good one. Yeah, that way the brushing the teeth, the showering. I listen to music while I shower, but that's just so I can time it. I'm like, okay, the song's 3 minutes long. Shower shouldn't take that long.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not going to waste my bill. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Never listen to an album in the shower, people. Do not do that unless you have a lot of money.
or meditative music where it's 15 minutes. Music.
Oh God, no. But no, dude, it's serious. The motivation that we have today, we actually do need some help and pointers when it comes to these podcasts that actually provide that. It's actually really, really beneficial to all of us. And even if you disagree with their points of view, that's okay. And speaking of disagreeing on points of view, this might be the part where you guys turn off the show, because we're actually going to have a centrist conversation on what's wrong with the right and the left in politics. And I love it. It's my favorite conversation to have, because I'm somebody who sits pretty in center, but I do lean right a little bit. I could say I have a mentality that's always been there, because I was born and raised Catholic, that I run by a set of morals and values. And so when those morals and values are constantly attacked, I'd say, okay, well, now I care. Because I'm like, I remember having all of these things growing up, and if I see that traditional way of life going away, I'm like, okay, well, why? Why would we get rid of that? It worked for me, so why wouldn't it work for everyone? So then I also have this newer perspective, I guess you could say nuanced. That's one of the favorite words from the Media Drone podcast, and shout out to them again. But like, I come with this idea, like, I'm not always right, and I don't have to be. The best thing to do is actually just to listen to one another. So in this case, I think it's great that we can have this conversation right now, because there's some people that'll get offended just by me even talking about one of these parties. And the right will actually jump all over me if I said anything about how Trump is not a good president. But that's it. I'm just going to put that out there. It's not wrong. I can't do it. I'm sorry. The economy's not perfect when we have 80-year-old men in office. I don't believe that this is the right way. I think we should get some independents that actually understand how real life is, and then they can take over, and we'll have disagreements, but we always disagree with the candidate. Why would we want to have two senile grandpas where we could have some smart, like, 40-year-old? Like, I don't know. I'm in the middle. Either way, man.
Okay.
I want to hear your perspective. What got you into political arguments and all of that?
Well, let's clarify. It's not that I'm like heavily into politics.
You love it. You said it's one of your passions.
I do. What I like from it, I like to think. Right? So I could truly say, like, and it's funny. I am a Taurus, so I can be stubborn. Okay. But it's not that defines me, but it is a true trait. Like, I am stubborn, and I tend to be and I am a Taurus, so it kind of lines up. But anyway, so my number one goal in any discussion, and I do like politics, but it's not the politics that I like. It's the learning and the opportunity to be challenged. That's what I like. So, in terms of, I'll kind of actually address like the 80-year-old grandpa thing. And I'm actually going to ask you a question here.
Yep.
Would you want a 40-year-old running in today's, would you want a 40-year-old president when at the same time you're saying that the traditional values are gone or are being, stripped out?
See, it depends.
And it's coming from the 40-year-old.
Their background. So like, some people have the silver spoon in their mouth from birth. Some people it's in the bloodline, like the Clinton family and stuff like that. Like, you can just tell that they wreak success all over everything that they have. And I don't know how they do it, because I hate that family so much. But I want to have that new fresh blood. It's a progressive way of thinking. As a conservative, it's very opposite of me. But I could say, like, I would rather have somebody that I know can actually change and actually follow through on when they say they're going to change something, instead of just playing the game that they always do to both sides. Like, oh, well, if you vote for me, things are going to change. If you vote for me, this is my plan. And then 4 years later, if you vote for me again, I promise this time I'm going to do it. It's like, dude, boy who cried wolf syndrome. No way I'm going to trust these people.
So let me ask.
Biden says he's Catholic. That bothers me to the core, man. I'm like, did you just say you're Catholic? You're smelling kids, bro. What? Actually, no, that's not too far off then. No, I'm kidding. It's all jokes. All jokes.
Well,
people.
so here's my take on it, right?
Yeah.
Is, first off, most people will say, I think especially in today's world, most people will say, I don't like either party. I feel like most people think that, right? I think most people think we don't like either party. Okay. We all agree there. Cool. Then the next step is where the first split happens. Well, I think we should achieve this goal this way. And then the other side will say, well, I think we should achieve the goal by this route instead. That's usually where people split, right? For example, no one wants to see someone, not receive medical treatment. One goal, like one side is, okay, well, we'll provide it with free healthcare. The other side is like, well, let's, make it more privatized as opposed to, as like, and mind you, healthcare is definitely not my expertise here, but it's, kind of changed the economics and financial switching of hands through the medical industry. So we can all agree we want the same goal. Now, my thing is this: when it comes to the parties, right? It's the parties are the same thing is actually it's kind of the same thing as like the classic like term is like the police are like the strong hand of the law, right? Like the punishment or the enforcement, right? That's kind of what the party system is too. If let's say me and you disagree on something, you use your party to put the strong hand of the law onto me.
Yep.
I vote on a party to put the strong hand of the law on you. When in reality, I wouldn't approach you and tell you your views are wrong and do something about it, and you wouldn't do that to me because there's this natural
keyboard warriors.
Well, yeah, no, but there's one of those things where it's like, even for example, like telling your neighbor, hey, like you need to clean the grass or like trim the grass or pick up your weeds or something, right? Like, or hey, your car, like, it's making the neighborhood look bad. No one has the yeah. No one has that same, like, whether it was a perfect error or not, no one has that 1950s attitude of like, hey, I'm going to go tell Bill or Bob, like, hey, your son's running amok over on whatever street. No one has that. No one has that code of like, hey, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm informing you. It doesn't happen anymore. Someone would rather call the cops.
Yeah.
Or so. It's first off, I believe it all starts with self-accountability. That's why not only do I not believe in a two-party system, I tend to. It's not a hill I'm going to die on here, but I tend to think that the system in general is designed to place psychological warfare on people. Because, and for example, like. You could say like, okay, well, I mean, think about it this way. If you vote for someone, it's very hard to admit that person did anything wrong. No matter what, it's just a human psychological trait.
Yeah, you have to tell yourself, because you're responsible for their actions.
Yeah.
You have to say, oh, no, he's doing the right thing. He didn't mean to say grab her by the pussy. That was an accident. He didn't mean to sniff the kid and talk about ice cream when the school shooting just happened. That was an accident. I voted for this guy. He's completely reasonable. He did not fall off his bike. That was a complete scam. That didn't happen. He didn't fall up the stairs. No, that guy doesn't sniffle too. No, like, it's just the idea that you have this personal bias that's so incredibly strong, and thanks to what you said about the party system, they put it in your brain that if you don't stand with your candidate, that you're wrong. Like, even South Park had the hilarious joke, vote or die, motherfucker.
Actually, I take it from the other angle, though. I take it from the angle of they know the psychological effects and they play off of it. It's not the other way around.
Oh, everyone. You're not saying that they live in denial?
No, what I'm saying is they know that we have this thing where we can't, we're not, there's no humility in like, people can't admit when they're wrong.
Yeah.
So they play off of that with the voting system. We're going to create all this stuff, and you're going to support them or whatever side. And then when we get, whether you believe the voting actually works or not, when that person's in office, we already know these people are going to support them, even no matter what you do, because now I can get away with whatever I want to do because they still have to support you, because no one can admit when they're wrong.
It's so sad, but so true.
They know the they know the psychology first, and they play off of it later. It's not the
Yeah.
other way around. Yeah.
When it comes to divide and conquer, it always has to go down to the people. Like you were asking, why would I ever want a candidate that's progressive and like trying to take away my traditional values? Well, I also want somebody that exposes the system like we are currently, like someone that is transparent. That's why RFK was so exciting to people. They're like, oh, that's the guy that's for me because he's going to expose everything. And they did the same thing with Elon. Oh, he's exposing everything, the Twitter files and all that. And it's like, yeah, they did for a day. Or for a week. That was it. You got your exposure. Now nothing happened from it. Remember how nothing happened?
Yeah. No, honestly, here's the thing is like,
It's pandering, dude.
we're here generally just generally speaking, most people like, and this isn't even political. Like, this is literally just a way things work in today's world, and not even just today's world. It's happened for forever. It's just more so in today's world.
Yeah.
People are steered. It's psychological warfare. You see, a Nike ad. Oh, I got to have those shoes, or better yet, Yeezys. Like, oh, I got to have those because this person has them. They know the psychology. I mean, half of business is psychology. So,
Yes.
so if business is psychology, well, what is the government? It's a business. You don't think they know psychology? And so it's more so about we are being steered, and the only way to break out of, being the cattle being fed to the slaughter is simply honestly, it sounds crazy, but it's starting with yourself first, because as soon as you start to
Not participating?
not participating, but taking control of your own life.
Yep, that makes sense.
That way, cause, I mean, how many people how many people now has politics become their football?
You're not
Right?
kidding. One of my favorite
It's-
podcasters, he said that his Super Bowl is any time that they have a debate. That's his Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
Yeah,
gets
and the
excited.
thing, and and it just comes down like, and why is the Super Bowl such a big deal? Let's take politics out of it. Why is the Super Bowl such a big deal? Oh, it's a fun game. Is it? Yeah, I'm sure it's a fun game. Why do you watch it? Why do you spend your time watching it? Because everyone else does. It's a reason to have a party. It's a reason to have a good time. That means you have time to do that. Has all your goals, has all your dreams and stuff. Are you working on that, or are you gonna go watch someone else live their dream?
True. I actually, now that you're thinking about football, sports in general, that analogy could actually be the way that we resolve things. Because think about this. Sports, like politics, have two sides. You have your opposing team and you have your home team.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have your red and blue and your left and right. Everyone shows up to vote, and everyone shows up for the Super Bowl. It's all like a united thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could just stop going against one another when we unite, we could actually win altogether. Like that's an overall win. However, based on propaganda, based on previous games, based on rivalries, it makes it impossible. So the only way for us to move forward, if we wanted to go in a progressive mindset, would be to stop listening to the people that are causing the rivalries, which is marketing and
Yeah.
psychology that has been running us from the beginning of time. So a millennial like me, and are you millennials? Well, yeah, a
Yeah.
millennial like both of us, we're not going to make any change, but we can say it. We can be like, hey,
and
that sounds like
actually,
a good idea.
Honestly, here's one of those things though and this is like where it kind of like, whether it's bad, whether it's good, whether it's sad, whatever, it doesn't matter. But at a certain point, right, there is once you have no common ground, what's the point of staying together, right?
Yeah.
So because we can only have that home team if we agree on the fundamentals. As soon as people don't agree about the fundamentals, then there's no point. Now that doesn't mean there has to be conflict.
Yeah.
I am a big proponent, I believe that we should actually split the country in two, personally.
Yeah.
I think so. And but then here's the thing too. We split the country in two, right? You have your beliefs, we have our beliefs, and we come together. That's exactly what the states are for. We already have that.
Yeah, we had that with the Civil War.
And why is that? And why is that not the case now? Because federal has taken over state control.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. They have way
So-
too much power.
Exactly. And but on the other hand too, like we're living in a world now where, and it's been steadily growing, but it's exponential. Actually, I'd say it's almost logarithmic, where it's like tenfold, where basically now we also have corporations that are working. Their corporations are with the government, like they work hand in hand. But the biggest thing I also want to get, I want to make this clear too, is that it's not. First off, America is still better than basically every other place.
Yeah.
But every other place, the problems we have here is everywhere else too. So it's not. So whenever I hear like, "Oh, America's terrible," okay. Well, first off, I've been to the different countries. I'm not saying like I know everything about every country, but I've personally been to other countries too. And regardless if you have or haven't gone, the problems that we face are the problems that face most places.
Yeah.
And the interesting part is, okay, well, let's say you're more on the left side of the thing of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dubai is terrible for you. Like you couldn't agree with anything that they do. If you're on the right side of the aisle, well, I mean, you could go to London or Europe, and that's terrible for you. So
Yep.
the problems are all the same. The only thing is we have it more localized here in the country. Mm-hmm. And, for me, it's one of those things where it just comes down to like, once the fabric is ripped, it's very hard to repair. And it's almost as if, in my personal belief, the fabric continually tearing,
Yeah.
is what they want.
Well, of
They don't want us to split. They want us to be in conflict. Because
The
anytime there's
divide and
conflict,
conquer is
Yeah.
the best way to do it.
yeah, and it's anytime there's conflict, there's something to be gained, and that's the one thing that every business person knows.
Oh yeah.
Is and these these governments, corporations, they all know that. I mean, shoot,
So-
go ahead.
As an optimist, as somebody who always wants to find like the good in people, and I believe in fate. I believe in things like that. I believe that there's times where we've been through some shit and then we learn from it. Do you think that what we're currently in is a denial that it might be horseshoe theory? Like we might have both parties connected in some way, but we're just avoiding to go down the horseshoe and realize that that's the same point, like kind of just awakening the truth is that we've been played all of our lives. I've talked to communists when Omegle was around, and I talked to somebody in Brazil, and they told me that both my parties were on the same side and that they're being controlled by our government, and that's why they're like anarchists or communists. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it as the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC thing. It could be exactly that, where we've both been played forever to constantly fight one another, but truly the people in charge are running both of us like puppets, and that goes with like many things that we've had symbolism of conspiracy in the past. I think it is much more of a reality that I've seen people that I would usually disagree with that I'm like, they're really not that far off from the truth, and neither are we, and neither is this person, and neither. It's just like I can't handle the delusion part, and Delulu, if you wanted to do this modern day's version of delusion, but it's just the idea that you can watch someone, whether it's going to be Trump, Biden, whoever it's going to be, say things that just make almost no sense. I mean, Kamala Harris talked to an entire group of Americans as if they were toddlers about a world conflict. Oh, Russia's a big country and Ukraine's a small country, and Russia's big and they're being mean to the small country. It's like this is who we appoint into adult federal positions, and this is how they speak to us, and we give them respect. How? How does it work?
Well,
that we
here's-
continue respecting them.
Well, yeah, and real quick, Drew had I know exactly that analogy. It's actually, I think they physically did that too. But no, 100% agree. But here's the thing. It's like, okay, you're told, okay, so we know if Kanye posts a new shoe, everyone wants to buy the new shoe. If there's a new show, everyone hops on the new show. If a new song drops or there's a Kendrick Drake beef, people are, what's going on here, right? So obviously we're very manipulated or malleable. We could shift to whatever. Okay, well, that's a lack of self first. That's a lack of self. You've lost yourself. You don't recognize, because we're so ingrained to just go with the flow because everyone else is going with the flow. And the social aspect plays a huge factor in it. So we already know we could be manipulated. We could also be, it's common sense. We can also be manipulated into having actual conviction for a team player on whatever side you're on. So, and it all just comes down to they're 100% on the same side. I mean, put it this way, and I'll just be real. If I was a dictator, I'd run it exactly how they're running it. Like, why?
That's what they said. I think it was during the pandemic. They're like, how would you change anything? It seems like it's working. It's the truth. That is exactly how it would be if you were trying to plan a way to make sure that everyone is always fighting with one another and completely away from the truth.
Yeah.
Or searching for the truth.
Yeah, and the thing is simply like, they're 100% on the same team. I also personally, this is we'll kind of move past like the red or the red blue, the right left thing.
Yep.
Here's my question, and this is one that I still answer to this day. Because fundamentally, like principle wise, I'm an anarchist. I don't think any government should exist. Okay. Is there ways to provide things that government provides currently without a centralized government, whether that's even state? If we could get to state, I'll be cool. But there are ways to provide services, including police, where it's without a government, centralized government.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it's gonna get weird, but I fundamentally, I at the very bottom line, I don't believe that anyone should tell me
what to do,
what I can or can't do.
Yep.
Now that's where we get into the social contract, where basically by being alive, I have, or is it the social contract, or is it, yeah, I think it's the social contract. I think it was
That's
it's
where the opposing
go ahead.
side would be the whataboutisms. They would just smash you with whataboutisms. Well, what about if we had this person that wants to commit crime, and what if this person wants to do this? Why should we give them the right to do that? Like all of that morality question.
Yeah, it's really bothering me. Social contract. I forget the philosopher. That's gonna bug me. I think it was French, probably. But basically, yeah. So you have this.
I just
you
saw
have the
Drew's message. Drew, that's awesome. That's I didn't even think about that one. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. No, so it's one of those things where, like, we are born with, whether it's God or whatever you want to classify as God, we are born with rights, right? Typically referred to as the Ten Commandments, or, things that are protected under the Constitution, right? So just generally speaking.
Right to life.
Right to life, yeah. So we have this, and then, for me, it's hard to hear of any person being able to tell me what to do. Now, in terms of the whataboutisms, right? Like that's the whole concept of like, well, even with in 2020, well, what about my potential harm to someone else, right? Yep. Just by going out in public or whatever. It's one of those things where I think it then comes down to self-accountability, just like we were talking about with, ignoring the sales tactics seen all around us, whether that's, for shoes, TVs, music, whatever it is, just at least being mindful of, hey, they're trying to sell me. Everything is trying to sell you something.
Yes.
It's the same concept. So, basically if it's one of those things where it's the self-accountability part. If you don't feel comfortable, if I don't feel comfortable going out into a field where there's lions because the lions might attack me, I'm not going to go, right? It
Sounds
doesn't
like a smart
mean
idea.
yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, and again, this isn't the hill I'm dying on here. Like I'm always wrestling with this, with the idea of, do we need a government at all? Period. Now this is where it could get weird. I don't know if you want to go into the alien thing yet, but
Nope. We're gonna actually do that another time because I gotta make sure that I get to work on time today. But we will.
Okay.
We will settle it perfectly. All right. So I want to talk about the quote that we got from Drew here. He used an ant analogy, and that is not an ant, an uncle ant. This is an ant insect. It reminds me of that one quote: "Put 100 black ants and 100 red ants in a jar together. Nothing happens. But if you shake the jar violently, they will start attacking each other. Red believes black is the enemy, while black believes red is the enemy. Well, the real one is the one who shook the jar." An absolutely amazing representation of how things work in society, because we are so manipulated and so just, I don't know, we are just engaged too much in everything. We have way too much access these days. In my opinion, I think that social media, the way that Facebook was and now is, the way that Meta is, the way that I'm literally talking to you right now, obviously it's a great thing, but at the same time, when our ancestors were growing up, when we were growing up in the 90s, we didn't hear about everything going on in the world all the time, unless we were obviously glued to the television. Most of the time, we were living our lives, going out and doing whatever the hell we wanted. Nowadays, you have 13, 12-year-old activists speaking their mind online about things that they haven't even comprehended yet. And the fact that we have the access, yes, can be great, but also can be so poorly executed that we're going to manipulate every single culture always. And I would rather we had an awakening. And revolution is great too, but an awakening first, just a wake-up call that we've seen in many movies, that it's like, oh, that's fiction, that's not real. But what if it could be? What if it could be a thing where we wake up and we say, I don't care anymore? And it's not about like, I don't care about people, or I don't care about this movement, or I don't care about my morals and values. It's like, I just want to continue being happy. Like, I was happy after all of my struggle getting a job for the last couple of weeks because I've been away from all of the things going on in the world. I have seen the posts and the stories and all the things that people are posting, but I'm like, whatever. And you're the same. We were talking about that in the beginning. It's like, when you miss out on all this stuff, it really can't affect you. So I just say, why let it continue affecting you? And like, that's why you should vote for me. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like,
No.
It's that mentality of if nothing really truly is going to personally determine what changes your future, I guess you could say arguably that if you don't care about world conflict and something happens and you're no longer involved in the war and then you're like a hippie, then yeah, that could cause some trouble down the line. But at the same time, why do we get involved? Why don't we just look at the weighing of balance?
Yeah, I would phrase it like this. Instead of, because it's very easy to take what you said and put it under the banner of putting your head in the sand, right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
I would frame it more like this: by bettering yourself, you will think better. Period. You will think more clearly by bettering yourself. So
that's actually what Andy says all the time. He said they want you fat, get thin. They want you lazy, get active. Like all of that. You do the opposite.
Yeah, do the opposite.
Of what they
want. Now here's my only problem with the ant in the jar analogy here. And I have heard that, and generally, I agree with it. I do. Here's my only problem with that is, obviously we're the ants, right?
Yep.
What is the jar shaking? Because if you say it's the government, it's not.
No, it can't be the government. The government is just a small part of this
What-
world.
But what is what is shaking the jar? Is it the government? Is it the
It's the
media?
United
telling us-
Nations. It's
No,
the
no.
aliens. It's the
No,
Illuminati.
no. What it is, and this is where it's a very, it's possibly unrepairable, and that's okay
Yes.
because we could settle things amicably. The coffee, I've had way too much of it. The jar being shook is actually the fundamental belief systems. That is the jar being shook. Everything else falls from that. So basically,
It's where we started.
yeah, so it's not like we can come together, because how do you come together with someone that literally believes the exact opposite as you? There is no coming together.
There's
the
common
jar-
ground, but yeah, that
there's-
wouldn't work overall.
What's the common ground? That we don't attack each other for our beliefs. So that's a good start.
Yeah,
but-
that's something.
but-
But
But that's not something that motivates people and gets conviction in people. People get conviction about the things that they're passionate about, which usually tends to be a select amount of subjects.
true.
So the jar being shook is, now you could also say your belief systems. Well, where are they coming from? They could be coming from what you're being told by, either parents, school, church, government, media, whatever it is, friends.
Yep.
So you could say that maybe that's actually that's the shaking of the jar. So it's just, but how do you recognize that the jar is being shook by those factors? And it's by not necessarily having to distance yourself, but to really be open and to really take a step back. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you work on these aspects of your life, take some time away from other aspects,
Yes.
when you'll see more clearly of the things that you used to do, or that you used to, kind of live out, or something like that.
Yeah, Goggins, Frisella, all the other people that have been successful entrepreneurs, they have been successful because they did that exact thing. They focused on bettering themselves, and they learned from plenty of hardship that
Yeah.
it's not an easy path. But then they said, instead of just keeping it selfishly for themselves, like, I made it successfully, this is how I did it for myself, and here's my book that you can get for $400, they then said, let's tell the world. And that changed everyone. And that's why I say, anybody that is not right wing and you really want to hear a perspective from somebody that might offend you but also has like a really good mentality, listen to those entrepreneurs, listen to those people. And if you
Yeah.
hate capitalists, I'm sorry, you're never gonna make it. That's just, I can't figure out how to make it, because I've only worked in a what I consider a capitalist society, but I don't know. I don't know anymore. America's been changed so many names. We've had the Democratic Republic, we've been Constitutional Republic, we've been completely liberal, we've been completely conservative. Like there's so many different titles that we've given ourselves over time, and I think we're all full of shit. I think we're honestly coming up with coping mechanisms so that we can consistently do the same thing that we talked about with the voting thing. And it's like, well, I stand with this candidate, so therefore, yep, that's the way it is. I believe it.
It's one of those things. I mean, and this, and I know you gotta get going too, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, it's interesting because, and we'll just kind of end it here, I guess. But when it was like the Trump administration, right? Everyone was concerned about politics, right? As soon as Biden got in, the people that supported Biden fell off, stopped caring, and the people that support Trump still kind of care a little bit, right? Or they'll make their comments or whatever, right? And this
Especially
isn't a right or
January
left.
6 people.
Yeah. but this isn't even a thing about right or left. It's pure proof that, okay, well, when the media was putting a bunch of stuff up, everyone cared. When the media backed off, no one cared. So that just shows you how much we will take in and be, and it's a weird thing. It's almost like we embrace being told what to do, which it's going to go real fast. You ready? Ready? Put on the seatbelt. It's almost like we're being told what to do, and we want to be told what to do. Which, why do we want to be told what to do? Maybe it's because we were created by aliens, and we have a purpose to be slaves to the fundamental goal, to the goal. Which also makes you think, why is it that in every society, even though I love the idea of anarchism, how come there always has to be a leader? Is it something innate in us? And if we always have to have a leader, maybe that's why we're trying to create AI, is to be our God.
Oh my God, I love it, dude. Okay, wait. We're gonna have Brad back on in the future. This is the greatest deep dive out of nowhere for 5 minutes left of a conversation, dude. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no
this
problem.
was an amazing show overall. I hope that everybody that was able to see this live enjoyed it. If you didn't, it's perfectly fine. If you want to follow me, that's fine. If you want to follow Brad, that's fine. If you don't like me anymore, that's cool too. I literally do not care. All I ask is that if you guys have any time to listen, try and do that, just because outside perspectives are really good to have. We're both normal guys. We're really not, psychopaths or anything, except for that alien subject stuff. No, it's fine. I get it, and I like that argument. That's a really fun argument. I probably will get a bunch of people on for that next chat. I want to get as many perspectives as we can out there, right? That's how we do it. That's we spread the fun, spread the love. Either way, man, this was an amazing chat.
Awesome.
I really, really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for
You're
having me
an
on.
amazing person, and I'm definitely gonna have you back on very soon.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Take care, and thank you again.
You as well, man. And everyone else, I hope all you guys are checking out the description of this video and giving all the love to Brad and all of the bands that he has produced for. This man is a constant worker bee. He is just in and out of the studio taking care of things. And he said the most reasonable thing I've ever heard in my life, $20 an hour. Is that true? Is that an actual flat rate?
No, that's not my flat rate. I was saying
Okay, good.
in the past. Yeah.
In the past. Get a time machine, get in your DeLorean, go meet Brad in the past, go start recording
88 miles
your
an hour.
music. Exactly. 88 miles per hour. You can make some music, bring it to the future. Maybe you can save us from the god-awful mumble rap that we have to deal with these days. and then we'll be able to fix music at the same time, enjoy this conversation once again. Thank you, man. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. Awesome, bro.
All
Thank
right,
you so
guys.
much.
Absolutely.
Good.
You guys have a great night and stay safe out there. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the Media Man Dan podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, have an awesome day, and stay safe out there. Peace.